3 roads, 1 journey. A story of friendship and resilience. Life has a way of testing us early, often before we've built the tools to handle its weight. For 3 childhood friends, Arjun, Kabir and Dev, their early years were not marked by innocence or ease, but by hardship, uncertainty, and the desperate need to survive. Each of them bore personal struggles that would shape who they became, but what made their story unique was how each chose to face those struggles, and how their friendship evolved despite taking different roads. The roots of adversity. Arjun, the oldest among the 3, grew up in a modest home with a loving but overworked mother and a father who toiled in a textile factory. At the age of 10, tragedy struck. His father died in a workplace accident, leaving the family without its primary breadwinner. From that moment on, Arjun's life changed. The laughter in his home faded, replaced by the grinding stress of unpaid bills and borrowed money. Arjun took up part-time work delivering newspapers before school, sacrificing sleep and study time. The weight of responsibility fell on his young shoulders, and he wore it like armor, refusing to let his family fall apart. Kabir's struggle, though less visible, was no less profound. His family was financially stable, even considered well-off by town standards. But inside the walls of his house, love was transactional and affection scarce. His parents were distant, preoccupied with careers and social status. They demanded perfection and achievement, but offered little warmth or emotional connection. Kabir grew up emotionally isolated, believing he had to earn his worth through excellence. He developed a fierce independence, not out of choice but necessity. While others shared their worries with parents or mentors, Kabir learned to lock his pain inside, setting unreachable standards for himself. Dev was the quiet one among the trio. He lived with his aging grandmother after both parents left the country for work abroad when he was 5. Letters came infrequently, phone calls even less. His grandmother was kind but frail, and Dev became her caretaker far earlier than any child should. His loneliness was profound, but he never complained. He found solace in books and long walks, and in the rare but treasured moments with Arjun and Kabir. Dev learned early that life didn't promise fairness, but it did offer moments of beauty, if one knew where to look. Despite their differing hardships, the 3 boys formed a strong bond. They found comfort in each other's company, a sanctuary from the storms at home. But as they grew older, each would confront their demons in their own way. Arjun, the strength in seeking help. By the time they entered college, Arjun's responsibilities had only grown. His mother's health was declining, and the burden of sustaining the household fell squarely on him. He juggled 2 part-time jobs, barely managed his coursework, and avoided social events altogether. Slowly, the weight became unbearable. His grades slipped, his health declined, and he began isolating himself even from Kabir and Dev. One night, after a particularly hard day, Arjun broke down. For the first time, he admitted he wasn't okay. Sitting with Dev and Kabir in the college courtyard, he confessed everything: the panic attacks, the overwhelming pressure, the fear of failure. "I thought I could handle it all," he said, his voice trembling. "But I can't. I need help." That moment marked a turning point. Dev accompanied him to the student counseling center. Kabir helped him restructure his finances and workload. With support from friends, professors, and mental health professionals, Arjun slowly began to heal. He learned that asking for help wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. Over time, he became a vocal advocate for mental health, eventually founding a non-profit to support underprivileged students. Kabir, the lone climber. Kabir, true to form, remained self-reliant. Despite his inner struggles, he never opened up. He earned scholarships, landed internships, and graduated with honors, all without asking for help. On the surface, he was the success story. Driven, intelligent, and highly capable. But underneath, he battled anxiety, chronic stress, and a fear of vulnerability that kept him emotionally distant from everyone, even his closest friends. His belief in self-reliance became both his greatest strength and deepest flaw. He pushed himself to impossible standards, refusing to share his burdens. He built a tech startup shortly after graduation, which eventually became profitable. Yet, even at his highest moments, there was a loneliness that lingered, a cost of refusing to let others in. Years later, when asked in an interview about his success, Kabir simply said, "I did it on my own." And he had, but it had left him exhausted and emotionally scarred. His story became a testament to the power of self-reliance, but also a cautionary tale about the dangers of isolation. Dev, the quiet balance. Dev chose a path somewhere between Arjun's vulnerability and Kabir's solitude. He learned to balance independence with interdependence. When his grandmother passed away during his first year of university, Dev was devastated. But instead of retreating, he reached out. He found comfort in community, leaned on Arjun and Kabir, and began volunteering at a local youth shelter. Dev pursued social work, combining his compassion with action. He didn't try to save the world, but he did change lives, one person at a time. He often said that strength wasn't about bearing burdens alone, but knowing when to share them. He mentored troubled teenagers, many of whom saw in him a calm and steady presence they'd never known. Over time, Dev became a bridge between his two friends, reminding Arjun that it was okay to pause, and encouraging Kabir to open up, even just a little. Converging paths. Years passed. The three friends, once just boys navigating a rough world, became men with stories of struggle and triumph. Arjun's non-profit grew into a national organization. Kabir's company expanded internationally, and he eventually began to speak about mental health in the tech world, something he had once kept hidden. Dev opened a community center in their hometown, offering counseling, job training, and youth programs. They met once a year in the park where they had spent so many afternoons as teenagers. Sitting on a weathered bench under a large peepal tree, they would talk, laugh, and reflect on how far they had come. "You know," Arjun once said, "we all took different roads, but we ended up in the same place." "Maybe that's what life is," Dev replied. "Different paths, same direction." Kabir, quieter now, nodded. "And it's not about walking alone. It's about knowing who to walk with." The story of Arjun, Kabir, and Dev is a narrative of resilience, shaped by struggle and defined by choice. Arjun found strength in support, Kabir in self-reliance, and Dev in balance. Their journeys reflect the diverse ways people cope with hardship, none inherently better than the other, just different expressions of human endurance. In a world that often praises the lone warrior or the community hero, their story reminds us that both paths are valid. What matters is not how you walk, but that you keep moving, and that, when the time comes, you recognize the value of both strength and vulnerability. Through friendship, each of them found not just a way to survive, but a way to thrive.